FYI, my anal virginity is solidly intact. I guess it depends on what you refer to anal virginity, though. I can tell you that unfortunately, I've been to the doctor more than once when they had to bust my cherry, as it were, with their little what do you call them, Dr. Jellyfinger, where they put the glove on and they get the little Vaseline on their finger, and they go up there and do a little check. Other than that, my anal virginity is solidly intact. Yeah, YouTube jail. It's really not bad. You get to have conjugal visits, and it's not really solitary confinement as far as I'm concerned, because you actually get to spend time with your family as opposed to spending time with you jackasses. As far as the so-called Civil War, yeah, we've been hearing about Civil War for quite a long time now, just like we've been hearing about economic collapse for quite a long time now, and it hasn't happened. And when you look at stuff like civil wars, and you study the Civil War from the 1860s in America, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I'm saying it doesn't appear to me to be on the horizon. Again, Sned's most famous comment ever was, "I reserve the right to change my mind whenever I see fit," which I do in this case as well. But I don't see the so-called Civil War happening. Are we divided as a nation? Incredibly. But something seems to be holding us together. And Nazi Germany happening and all that stuff in America, that's, in my opinion, not on the horizon either. You guys have to understand that prior to these ginormous social unrest types of movements, prior to these, you usually see really, really horrific times beforehand. So what happened pre-World War II? Well, they lost World War I. The Treaty of Versailles was a fucking joke. Germany had to pay war reparations that were literally unrepayable. It would almost be the equivalent of $2 quadrillion today. And just unrepayable. The only way to pay it back is just to print the money and give it to them, which anybody can do that, right? Let's just print the money and just give it to them, because we can't work our way out of this. So we'll just inflate our way out of this, and that's what they did. So, that led to famine and all this shit, and then you had seriously hard economic times for everybody in Weimar, and then along comes this guy at the right place at the right time, or you could say the wrong place at the wrong time, however you want to put it, but he was for him, he was there at the right place at the right time. He was well-spoken and extremely dogmatic and passionate as hell, and there was a crowd who was just on the edge of their seat itching to listen because they needed a savior. And so Hitler rose to power, and but it was out of this desperate need to have a savior. I don't necessarily see this country in a position right now where we need a savior. I think we're at the point where we don't want things to fall apart, and we're looking for someone to keep things from falling apart. But I think what you got to understand is, before there's a civil war or something like that, things have to literally fall apart. And when things fall apart, then you get desperate people desperate times, desperate measures. And that's when the squeakiest wheel gets the grease, the loudest, most obnoxious, crazy, hateful, yet well-spoken person comes out and says, these people, they're all to blame, and they just get everybody on board. Now, who are these people? Who could these people be? Well, right now, the critical race theory is saying it's the white man's fault. And if things fall apart in a drastic, horrible way, those people could rise to power, and they could continue to say, see, I told you the white man was going to ruin everything. Look, it's all ruined now, and it's his fault. So what are we going to do? Well, put them on trains and ship them to the American version of Auschwitz, which was, where would Auschwitz be located in the United States nowadays? Where's the modern day Auschwitz? I don't know. Think of the shittiest place in the whole country. Kansas City, probably. Ship them all to Kansas City. I don't know. And then, then you might have your Civil War / World War III or whatever you want to call it. But the good thing right now about the white man, and I'm quoting Corey here, by the way, because I don't have any original thoughts in my brain. I hate to say it, it's not a good thing per se, but if you're a white guy, it's a good thing. Nobody in this country is more heavily armed than the white man. Nobody in the world has had a richer history of killing people than the white man. I mean, you think about it. What were we just talking about? We were talking about the Nazis. What were the Nazis? Were they black? Were they Asian? Were they Hispanic? Were they Pacific Islanders? What were they? They were white. I mean, I don't care. I'm not making a value judgment here. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just talking about facts. White people are good at killing people. Race war could happen. I don't think it's on the horizon, though. Not at this point. I think things would really have to fall apart. And by fall apart, I mean fall apart in the sense that certain territory in this country would get occupied. Kind of like Iraq. Like there would be pockets in this country where the police can't even go because there'd be certain pockets of gangs or whatever that okay, we're taking over Detroit. Detroit is our territory. And they just take it over. Or we're taking over Chicago. Nobody comes in, nobody goes out. That kind of stuff. If that kind of shit starts happening, where it's like a military coup and they just, and the Democrats are trying to do it. I'm not saying they're not, with the whole defund the police and, critical race theory and stuff. It kind of seems like that's what they're itching for a little bit. But I don't think we're there yet. I think people are afraid it's going to get there. And instead of a savior to save us from all of this nonsense, they're really looking for somebody who can unify the country. And I don't know. I wanted to say give the minorities a reason not to grieve anymore or be pissed off anymore, but I don't know if you can do that, to be honest with you. Because the human imagination can just go wild, I mean, you can dig yourself in a complete hole financially, socially, everything. You can destroy your entire life, You know, you can become a drug addict. You can ruin all your relationships. You can lose your job. You can lose your house. Just because of stupid decisions that you made, horrible errors that you made, you can do that. Yet, you can still say, well, this wouldn't have happened to me if I wasn't a black guy, or this wouldn't have happened to me if I was a woman, if I wasn't a woman, or this wouldn't have happened to me if I wasn't this or that. And you know, your imagination can just go wild and just, you know, so it's just a matter of keeping those people at bay. And by those people, I really mean anybody. I don't care what race you are. I mean, there's plenty of white people around who their lives get ruined for whatever reason, and they want to blame Obama, you know. They're shipping all jobs overseas. They took our jobs. You know, you just have to keep the pissed off people at bay. How do you do that? I don't know. Really, I think just scare them. You know, I mean, some people believe that, you know, you just write checks and you make them, you know, you give them bread and circuses and stuff like that. But I think nothing keeps people in line more than fear does. You know, you got to keep those. You got to keep the military intact. You got to keep the local governments intact. You got to keep the police intact. You got to give the police the authority to take care of shit. And you got to understand that police are some police, because not everybody's good. There's good and bad everywhere. Some police are going to abuse their power. And when they do, you got to give them a trial, and it's got to be a fair trial. You know, it's got to be where if they were really in the wrong, that they're found out. You know, we need to preserve justice in this country. And, you know, I think one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest problem, is either the actual or the perceived what's the word I'm looking for? Lack of equal protection under the law. The actual lack of equal protection under the law, or the perceived lack of equal protection under the law. You see it everywhere, right? You see it everywhere. The most recent, I would say, is, you know, the Biden family. Nothing's going to happen to Hunter. Nothing's going to happen to Joe. You know, you guys can talk about throwing them in jail all you want. Nothing's going to happen to either of those guys. Joe's going to leave office either next year or 5 years from now, a very, very, very rich man. His son ain't going to spend 1 minute in jail. And if it happens to be, if I happen to be wrong, then he's going to go to one of those white collar conjugal visit jails, like in Goodfellas, you know, where he just gets, you know, treated like a celebrity, basically. Equal protection under the law. We don't have it in this country, unfortunately. You know, and it almost seems like a pipe dream to actually believe that it's possible, which I think it kind of is a pipe dream to believe that it's possible, because I just think that this world is just, you know, right now the people with money and power hold all the strings, and the people without it don't. And the less money and the less power they have, the more you better behave yourself. Bottom line. And the more money and the more power you have, the more you can misbehave yourself and get away with it. I don't know. I'm kind of just bloviating here, but yeah. It's a good video. P226. I didn't watch Paladin's video yet, but I will. soon. All right, talk to y'all later.